Sorry to interrupt your lunch. At least you're inside, right? You ready? Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our apologies to the indoor diners who are enjoying our new dining situation for interrupting your lunch. But our city does want to highlight going to yellow. And so we're going to talk about the different aspects of that. Obviously, the city is very much aware of the change in status for Bernalillo County, which includes the city of Albuquerque. But we have much to go over in terms of aspects of that that are really, kind of central New Mexico and Albuquerque related, including tourism, also including our airport. So we are going to today talk a little bit about restaurants. And so we're going to feature our folks from Thick Pizza, and want to let everyone know we are broadcasting to you live from 505 Central, wonderfully inside with appropriately 25% capacity diners, and who are enjoying very much the new rules and regulations. And so we're going to hear from our Director of Aviation, Nika Allen, and we're going to hear from the CEO of Visit ABQ, Tanya Armenta. So to begin with, let me touch on a few things. Number one is, of course, the metro area is moving to yellow, and we, I think by now, know sort of the statistics and the reasons why. But just to briefly reiterate, we're at 4.49 positivity rate. So that is roughly 0.5% lower than we needed to be to open. So that's a very good thing. Also a reminder, though, to get to green, we get this question a lot, we have to keep that below 5, and we would also have to get to 8 cases per 100,000. And in the metro, we're very far from that. We're not even close. So I do just want to let folks know green is a long ways off. We hope we get there maybe this summer, but we just have to keep doing what we're doing, and for right now, we're just going to enjoy yellow. So a couple of things. One, look, there's a long, hard year that's behind us. And so we are cautiously optimistic, of course, for 2021, and of course, the just lower COVID rates that we have. But obviously, COVID is still with us. And so we've got to continue doing all this work to stay yellow and to get to green. I do want to take a moment to remind everyone, most of us know someone who's been affected with COVID, or even someone who's passed away. And in our metro area, there's 800 people who've passed away from COVID, so it's very, very real. And also there's 50,000 of us who've been sick. And so that's going to continue. So we're not out of the woods yet, but there is some relief and some hope for sure. So our city response has really focused on how to keep our city afloat during these tough times. And so we've tried to recognize the fact that not everyone can stay home, that staying home is a luxury, especially for a lot of our single parents, a lot of folks in must-work situation, and frankly, being Albuquerque, a lot of essential workers. For example, the city has about 6,000 employees, and 5,000 of them are essential. So, 80% of our workforce just at the city has been working pretty much the whole time. Now, we try to do a lot of things, and we won't go into them. I think you've heard we put out $150 million in COVID relief funding. A lot of that was to support city essential workers, but a lot of that was also direct payments to small businesses and to restaurants. A lot of it was direct payments to folks who literally could not get help elsewhere. That was our sort of funding a last resort program. And so we also made sure and we tried to keep everything open that we could, whether it was parks or open space, again, in a COVID-safe way. And we continue to work with, whether it's APS or Presbyterian, in all sorts of ways, vaccinating folks. And we know that's a slow process, but as everyone has acknowledged, it's really being driven by the amount of vaccination that's coming from the federal government. So I think the city and the state are doing a great job of getting out what we have. We just need more. And so that's really the bottleneck at this time. Now, a couple of highlights that I can share with you. Obviously, indoor dining is now 25%. So you see a couple of diners here following that. The big win for us, especially as the weather gets better, is outdoor dining, though, going to 75%. And as a reminder, the city continues our tent support program. So all those tents that got us through the fall are going to be right back up for the spring, and we'll be making sure that we're doing that again in a COVID-safe way. But 75% improvement is a big help for that, and of course some indoor dining. Also, mass gatherings, of course, are now at 10 instead of 5. So we'll explain why that helps in a lot of different ways. And also, our drive-in movie theater is going to start operating again now that we can have 80 vehicles in that. So we also want to set some expectations, I think, in a less fortunate way. I get a lot of questions about downtown, and we want to be really clear with you. There are two problems with our downtown economy. Number one, the convention center remains closed. That continues to be the case, other than rare special things like training for firefighters and things like that. And because of that, the hotels are not going to see a lot of convention-related business. And the restaurants are not going to see a lot of convention center-related business. But again, that is the public health order, so there's really nothing we can do about it besides our own individual behaviors to try and get us to green. Okay, so we just have to be patient and try and support some of our hardest hit areas in ways that we can. So I do want to encourage everyone to frequent, whether it's takeout or appropriate outdoor dining or indoor dining, try and support downtown businesses, because proportionally they are now going to be proportionally one of the most hardest hit because the convention center is closed. The second reason, excuse me, that's just a throat clear, that's all. So the other issue is, of course, our work habits. And the reality is, right, we have all these giant office buildings and not many people are in them working. Now, it's up to those private employers in terms of how they bring their workforce back or don't bring their workforce back. But we just want to acknowledge, when your downtown office buildings are mostly vacant, of course downtown is going to feel vacant and slow. And so those are the two issues that are really driving, unfortunately, down the downtown economy. But with patience, we do know we're certainly poised for recovery when the public health order will permit. And we're going to hear a little bit on some of this from our Visit ABQ folks a little bit later. But let's focus on one business downtown that is part of this 505 Central food court that is really cool. Come check it out. We have new food courts popping up all over. There's, of course, the Tin Can Alley version up in the Heights that is also amazing. We've got one in the Sawmill, and now one right in the heart of downtown. So with that, I'm going to introduce our guests from Thick Pizza, Felicia Meyer and Sean Beckley. Come on up.
Hi there. How are you all today?
I guess what would be most important for us when we're trying to think about the struggles and opening a business during a pandemic and getting to meet all the good people that are doing along with us is we have that great fear that we're going to relapse and have to go through this again, because we have twice on two different businesses we've opened up a day late, which means we did not actually get to open up. We opened up under closed circumstances. This is the first time we've had actual people here in 505 inside the building, and we cautiously appreciate it. We want people to exercise best practices, wear your mask when you're not eating, because we don't want to have to go through this again. It's tough not only with, everything about it is tough. The supply chain is tough. You'd think getting a pizza box wouldn't be a big deal, but it is. Sometimes getting cheese is a big deal, and it just is what it is. But we're in it for the long haul. All these people here are in it for the long haul. We're patient. We expect everybody else to be patient. It's been remarkable, the support that we've had from the community, because people have been just exceptional and appreciative of what we do. I hope that continues post-pandemic, because we're going to have issues then too, and it's nice that people are embracing us and what we do.
Right. We're so excited and super grateful that we get to bring people back into the hall. But like Seth said, I think the number one concern is that best practices are really being held up, and people are wearing their masks, practicing social distancing. I know we want to get out and we want to have a good time. We want to go out and eat. But one of the hardest and scariest things for us as restaurant owners is that we would flip back to a lockdown in a week or two. that's going to be really difficult. So if we can just ask all of our friends and neighbors and visitors and our wonderful customers, if you guys can just continue to practice wearing your masks, social distancing, and doing the things that it takes to keep us safe, then we can all continue on past this, move past this, and we can, enjoy the fruits of this very long labor that we've done this past year. But we're excited, and we can't wait to see you all back.
We just want to do it right.
All right, so let's transition a little bit to our city preparing for yellow. We started doing this, as you know, about 2 weeks ago. We saw the numbers, our unofficial numbers, indicating that we could probably move city services to yellow as well this week. So we got ready last week, and we are ready. So some announcements in terms of what's happening, and especially folks with kids, folks who use a lot of city services. This will be very relevant to you. A couple of things: City Hall, Plaza del Sol, other types of city buildings will be open, but they are open by appointment only. And most services continue to be online, but they are now open to the public by appointment. Youth programs, which have been a lifeline to parents. Note we have roughly been taking care of about 10,000 kids of folks who need that care during the pandemic, and we will continue to do that. The good news is the capacity gets to increase. So when you think about our community centers, kids programs, we get to go from essentially pods of 5 to 10. So we get to add a couple of more thousand kids into that program. Our kids programs at the museums, even at the zoo, and these will all be set up for the summer and sometimes for spring break. We get to add, again, about another 1,000 kids into those programs. Also at our multi-gen centers, we get to add 100 or so kids additional to what we're doing now. And of course, same with our parks programs, which includes things like swimming pools and so forth. We get to up the capacity, which means more people can enjoy those programs. So in sum, we get to really help out about 3,000 kids more than we were able to under the red status. And some of our really fun facilities will be able to open in a COVID-safe way. That includes our BMX programs for smaller groups, and it also includes our drive-in events, as I mentioned, like the drive-in movie theater out at the Balloon Fiesta. It also means that our sports and fitness centers are going to be able to open by appointment only. So especially at our multi-gen centers, we're prioritizing youth programming for parents who have to work, but we will be able to open up some of these facilities by appointments to the general public. This also means our bus system gets to have more people on our buses, and so we'll be adjusting that as well. And as a reminder, we're going to continue free fares for students under 25 and seniors, and that goes into effect March 1 as part of our transit equity program. And also the biggest one that most people care about is the zoo, and we get to take 700 more people every day through the zoo. And all those programs that I mentioned, all of those, essentially sell out, meaning the appointments that are available book out well in advance. So this is going to help meet some of the demand for folks who want to enjoy the zoo. Also, that includes Botanic Garden. And our museum, by the way, has a literally world-class exhibit, the Frida Kahlo exhibit. And this is the kind of thing normally that would have a line to go into it. It's a blockbuster show, and it still is. And luckily now, by appointment only, we can get 3,000 more people in each week to see that amazing Frida Kahlo exhibit. So please try and check that out. Just plan in advance. And again, all of these programs are operating under the COVID-safe protocol. So masks, distancing, sanitizing, all of these things are in place in all of these areas. So let me transition a little bit to our quarantine situation. The lifting of the quarantine is a big deal for the city of Albuquerque. And so we really appreciate the state and the governor for their flexibility and receptiveness to everyone's desire to just adapt with the times and adapt with a little bit better COVID rates. So undoubtedly, this will have a positive impact at our Sunport and on tourism. And these are two areas that have really been hit the hardest. And just because Albuquerque is the home of the Sunport and the crossroads of our city, we all know that, like Santa Fe, tourism is big for everywhere. We understand that, and that's awesome about New Mexico. So no doubt this will help our state. But usually everyone comes through Albuquerque. And so this is a big deal for our city in one way or the other. And so we don't expect there just to be, all of a sudden a huge bump in tourism, but we do expect over time a gradual increase. And we also want to facilitate that in a COVID-safe way. So for us, again, we want to remind everyone quarantining and testing is still recommended very strongly. And we do have testing at the airport. And now we have the hotel capacity to accommodate a longer stay that can accommodate your quarantining until you get your testing results. So we're going to focus on providing outdoor healthy activities, as we always do in New Mexico and in Albuquerque, but remind folks that this is one of the healthiest places to visit. And that includes our great outdoors, whether it's hiking, skiing, mountain biking, all of the options where Albuquerque is a shining star. And also, of course, all the options that are much safer in a COVID environment around the country. So for many local businesses, hotels, and others, this is just a much, much needed lifeline to stay afloat and push forward, hopefully to green. So let's start with the airport to talk a little bit about that. And, as a reminder, I do get folks that be like, oh, there's not as many flights in the airport. That's no surprise, obviously. Our airport has been basically reduced to a trickle for the last 9 months. So for details on that, the director of our airport, Nika Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. We are very encouraged by yesterday's announcement and are looking forward to welcoming travelers back to the Sunport. The airport has been preparing for relaxed quarantine requirements, and our strict COVID-safe practices will remain in place. The health and safety of our passengers, staff, and community remains top priority, and we appreciate that passengers are also taking their own steps to prevent the spread. In addition to the practices that we have at the Sunport, the federal government's mask mandate requires that travelers wear a face mask both on airport property and on the aircraft to provide an additional level of guidance and support for the industry. We're very appreciative. We do continue to provide free masks at the Sunport for travelers. Per the governor's latest executive order, arriving travelers are encouraged to promptly seek out a COVID test, and we're pleased to offer on-site testing for those passengers as soon as they exit security. While important to the health and safety of New Mexicans, the quarantine requirement and the various restrictions in place throughout the state have been detrimental to the tourism industry as a whole, including the Sunport. Year over year, passenger numbers at the Sunport were down 66% at only 1.8 million travelers compared to 5.4 million travelers in 2019. Our decline in passenger traffic is nearly 10% higher than it is the nationwide average. So we are seeing more of an impact here. We are actually noted as one of the highest affected airports in decline in passenger traffic. At the height of the pandemic, passenger traffic was down by as much as 98%. Flights offerings, as the mayor mentioned, have been severely impacted and will take time and demand to build them back up. In a survey we conducted last summer, when case counts were similar to how they are now, the travel sentiment of New Mexicans was quite high, with 2/3 of respondents thinking about or ready to travel soon. With the travel quarantine lifted, we do hope to see folks starting to come through on those plans while also remaining cognizant about living and traveling in a COVID-safe world. Thank you.
Just enjoying some delicious fries. So really want to recommend those. So let's see. All I have to do now is introduce our CEO of Visit ABQ to talk more about tourism, Tanya Armenta.
So thank you, Mayor Keller, for this opportunity to speak about the positive news that we had yesterday in pertaining to hospitality and tourism. It's also great that he can go back to getting some lunch now, and we want to thank him for his continued leadership. Yesterday's announcement by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham was an important step forward in the recovery of our city and state's industry. It's an industry that has historically been one of the largest private industries for the city and state, and it's been one of Albuquerque's most effective economic strategies. So when we talk about that important step, that really underlines why this is really what this means for the industry. It's going to provide much needed relief to the small business community, and these are these businesses that make this city so unique. We're proud and appreciative of the work of Albuquerqueans and New Mexico natives that have, and New Mexico residents that have got us to this point. As has been stated throughout today, it's really those COVID-safe practices, adhering to those, and that has got us here today. And we look forward to this opportunity to now advance and be able to enjoy just a little bit more of what the city has to offer. The developments will aid in the return of the skilled professional workforce, returning employees back to hotels and restaurants and other aspects of the tourism industry. And we want to continue this momentum. We want to be able to welcome back leisure travelers, conventions, meetings, to get even more people back to work. So we talked about how we have to adhere to those COVID-safe practices to lead to that future momentum. The harsh reality is that travel and tourism industry has been impacted much beyond most of the local industries. It's really been devastated. And so a statistic is nearly a decade worth. We had this really phenomenal growth here, nearly a decade of job growth for the hospitality and tourism industry here locally was wiped out in 2020. So when we looked at December 2020 numbers, 10,000 fewer jobs than December 2019 in the leisure and hospitality industry. There's also been the reality that the pandemic has on our city's vibrant small business community. There are many small businesses that have permanently closed that will not be returning as we look forward to this recovery. We're working really closely with our industry partners as they gear up for this reopening. And I want to say they are committed to providing safe and responsible experiences. The investment of time and resources that these businesses have spent thinking about this new environment, you heard from a business owner here directly with that commitment. It's really remarkable. And so that's been evidenced by their commitment to the New Mexico Safe Certified program and New Mexicans' commitment to the New Mexico Safe Promise, and that will continue. We also remain optimistic that these safe measures and the innovation that's happening across the country, the positive vaccine rate here in New Mexico, is going to also increase tourism offerings as we move forward, and that gatherings can start to take place sooner rather than later. So that progress is going to be really important. The mayor talked about the realities of what's still closed. That progress is really going to be important. And so we look forward to remaining committed to the COVID-safe practices, advancing to green, and then it was really great to hear the governor speak about that Green Plus environment yesterday in her press conference. There have been positive additions to Albuquerque during this pandemic, and we're standing in one today. 505 Central Food Hall, that investment by Mark Baker and all of these small businesses, really remarkable, and it's just one of the investments that's happened. So we have a great story to tell as we're looking to recovery with those private and the public investments that the city has made. And so when we look forward, we think the inherent qualities of Albuquerque, as the mayor talked about, our great outdoor recreation opportunities, our one-of-a-kind cuisine, our culture, it's going to make the city, we have this possibility, it's something really to look forward to, that we're going to be an ideal destination for travelers to return to, and that we're going to be of interest for meetings and conventions. And as Nika shared, the reality is that this is important for us to look at. This is what has really impacted our air travel and our air service. So all of this is going to be critically important to the recovery. And venues such as the Albuquerque Convention Center, while they remain closed, I want to just reassure they have spent so much time preparing. They were already committed to safe and responsible experiences, and they've spent so much time preparing for this COVID-safe environment. And so we're going to look forward to conversations with the state as we move forward about low-risk opportunities for meetings and conventions and other gatherings to return, because the fact of the matter is that not all travel is the same risk. There's not the same risk associated with all travel. There's not the same risk with all gatherings. And so we just look forward to those conversations as we move into the future. The bottom line is that the safe and responsible return of activity to where we stand now, downtown, but all across the city is going to be vital to the city's recovery. So I just want to switch gears a little bit, talk about the news that we have and how, as we look forward to the holiday weekend, Visit Albuquerque has put a webpage together of activities to celebrate Valentine's Day this year. So whether it's ordering a special dinner from a local restaurant, watching a live stream show with family and friends, hitting the slopes, or enjoying an overnight stay at a local hotel, there's so many ways to show love this year, and those businesses really need that love. So you can find a full list at our website, which is visitabq.org/Valentines. And we're right in the midst of a really fun campaign right now called the True ABQ Challenge that inspires and encourages residents to rediscover Albuquerque while simultaneously supporting those small businesses that need that support. And you can learn how to participate with that at our website as well, visitabq.org, and that's /True ABQ-challenge. Very cool. Those who can participate in this True ABQ Challenge can win a hot air balloon ride for two. And this contest, that hot air balloon ride for two, was offered by Rainbow Riders Hot Air Balloon Company. This contest goes through Sunday, February 28th, and we're going to draw the winner on March 8th. So in closing, I just want to say the industry is so appreciative for this important step in reopening and remains committed to offering safe and responsible experiences that will lead to not only maintaining this level, but leading to future recovery options. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya, and really appreciate those programs too. And I know a lot of folks have connected. Obviously, it's Valentine's Day weekend and a holiday Monday, so the timing really is good to go out and support local businesses. So with that, we're going to get to our Q&A section. I want to touch on really just a reminder that, we're moving in the right direction, but we do want to make sure we don't backslide into red. And we want to make sure we get to green as fast as we can, which, as I mentioned, is still a long road ahead. So I just want to remind everyone of the basics. I think we're all pretty familiar with the distancing and the masks and so forth, but please continue to get tested. And there are testing locations all over the city. And now you can do oral swab or you can do nasal, pick your method. And again, it's available at the airport even. So please continue to get tested if you are just worried about any type of exposure, indirect or direct, or if you have any symptoms. When in doubt, please get tested. Now, we also want to remind everyone about gatherings. And, it is, obviously, even if the weather gets a little better and so forth, the mass gathering issue, even if it's our parks and things, the great news is there are ways to practice sports and do things outside. But, we obviously can't see just parties of hundreds of people out at our parks and things like that. So just as a reminder, those are still not permitted and also can be very dangerous because there still are lots and lots of people who may have COVID and aren't even aware of it. So with that, want to be here for some questions and let everyone know too that I believe there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a long tunnel, but we're going to get there, and I think we're going to get there this year. So with that, I think we'll get our virtual question answer type situation set up. So who's kind of narrating those? Danielle? Okay. Thank you for those questions, and to touch on them a little bit. What we're doing right now with businesses is really trying to make our team available for education in terms of how to reopen. So all our enforcement team right now is focused on how to reopen under compliance. And believe it or not, that actually can be somewhat new for a lot of businesses that were closed before and are now just opening. So our team is fully booked in terms of how to do that. We're also continuing our tent program, which of course is very popular now that we're at 75 capacity. In terms of direct financial assistance, as a reminder, we did run out of all of that funding, but we're hopeful the current bill that is going through DC does have some funding for cities. And so if we do get that and those dollars are flexible, we will make sure and use those in one way or another to help businesses reopen and continue to stay open. So those are a couple of things that we're touching on right now. And in terms of the city, as I said, right now we go through a transition phase. So right now we're helping people transition to yellow. But obviously in a month or so, we will continue enforcement to make sure that we're following the rules around yellow. So that's how we're going to really handle enforcement. It'll be a transition period right now. And then we'll just see where we're at going forward.
One more from Vicky. Are you at all worried about the yo-yo effect? Businesses having to contract again if the county goes back to red? Or do you have confidence that this will happen?
Sure. You know, the question is about this challenge that we may face. We just don't know if we have to go back into red. And I think the most important thing is to share that I'm absolutely worried about it. I'm worried about, number one, that happening because of public health. So I'm worried about a situation where we get a little bit too lax and then all of a sudden our rates start going up and people start getting more sick and more people are hospitalized and there's pressure on the hospitals and we go through what we saw this fall. So I'm absolutely worried about that. But I think people really understand now. I have faith in Burqueños that after going through the summer where we gradually opened and then having to totally shut down in the fall, that was only 3 months ago. Like, we all remember that experience. And I would just ask people to remember that in the spring, right? We don't want to go through that again. And so let's make sure we follow the procedures to try and prevent that.
Next one is from Jessica Dyer at the Journal. For Nika, why do you believe the support was among the hardest hit in this pandemic? And have you done any surveys or research about what this is like?
So question is about the Sunport. We'll bring up Nika Allen.
Thanks for the question. So the question is how do we know that we were hit worse and why? So we monitor statistics across the United States and for our airport on a daily basis. And we have seen a trend, not just here in New Mexico, but trends with states that have more restrictions that have less people traveling. So you'll see some states like Texas or Florida, which actually have remained pretty high. And then you have states like New Mexico and California that had more restrictions throughout the last 10 months that have seen higher declines in passenger traffic. We're also, people are really focused on leisure travel right now, so anyone that had a significant portion of their travel for business, that's almost non-existent right now. So a lot of people are looking for those leisure destinations, so states that have leisure destinations are where people are going right now. And then again, that less restrictions has definitely made a big difference. So people here were very committed to staying home, which was very important. So we're happy that that happened, but it was detrimental to the airport.
Next one, also from Jessica Dyer for Tanya. As a membership organization, have you tracked how many of your partners have closed in the past year?
Okay, Tanya Armenta.
Thank you very much for that question, Jessica. Yes, we have. I can say, again, this is just a sampling of our local businesses that are partners. It is in the double digits. Feel comfortable saying it's somewhere between closer probably to 10 to 20 businesses at this point, and that's just a sampling of our businesses, but would be happy to follow up with more details on that.
Okay, next is from Steve Solis at GOV. He's got two questions. The first one, what kind of plans are in the works for the winter storm that's coming this weekend?
So question is about, and I'm a little bit out of practice, I'll try and repeat the questions. So the first one is about the snowstorm coming this weekend, and it looks like there might actually be two with like a day in between, at least if I followed the newscast right. So we are going to be ready. I mean, the good news is it's on our radar, absolutely. And for us, we do have our standard fleet of snowplow and overtime folks who are queued up for the appropriate hours when we expect those storms to hit. We also have plenty of salt slurry in storage, so we're in a good position there for actually the rest of the winter snow season. And we also hope that, obviously it's easier as a city if these happen on weekends or holidays. And so we're encouraging people to stay off the roads, of course, but that's going to be much easier if it's a weekend or a holiday. And as usual, with APS not in session, the city will try and let folks know as soon as possible if we're doing a 2-hour delay or closing City Hall. We typically follow the school district, but because of working from home and whatnot, we know a lot of folks will be following us. So we will be ready to make those decisions early in the morning. Snow days are always early for everyone at City Hall. So, and we'll get you more details. We can put you in touch with DMD in terms of the actual numbers of plows and so forth.
And the next one, we'd like to get your thoughts on the recent spike of violent and deadly crimes across the city.
So during the pandemic, we are seeing crime spike, especially homicide, all over the country. And I've actually been on several calls with mayors and police chiefs discussing this. And there are a lot of theories as to why. We do know it certainly is correlated to the pandemic. But exactly why that is it because people are out of work? Is it because of depression? All of these different things we're very concerned about. And now we do know Albuquerque is seeing a similar spike to what other cities have seen. To put this in perspective, the last stats I saw, Denver's homicide rate was up 40%. And we very much don't want that to happen in Albuquerque, but we're very concerned about the trends because they're certainly going in that direction. So what we're doing about them is really 3 things at this point. Number 1, we do know some of them are gang related, so we're doing some gang enforcement that is new, that started this week and is going to continue throughout the month. We also know they are low-level drug exchange and purchasing and selling related. So we're also trying to ramp up what we're doing in our narcotics unit. And we also know, unfortunately, they're related to domestic violence, and that is one of the hardest ones to prevent from happening. So we do want to encourage folks to use all the domestic violence resources that are available on our website and through the different hotlines, and really just neighbors and so forth to be really sensitive to that. So those seem to be the 3 areas driving it up, and that's why we're focusing our arrest efforts on that. And so the team over at APD can provide you with more details on that if you like.
From Chris and Keith here, Testing is an important component to us to reiterate any efforts that the city is making to make sure testing continues at higher levels.
So testing is very, very critical to staying in yellow, to moving to green, and most importantly to public health, because again, we can reduce that spread by people getting tested and then quarantining. So for us, what we're doing is a couple of things, reminding everyone testing is widely available now. So there's at least a dozen locations all over the city. All of this is available on our website and on 311. We even have testing available at the airport. And there's also lots of different types. So you can make a reservation, you can show up the same day, you can do cheek or you can do nasal, and they all have a really quick turnaround. So we're in a very good place and appreciate the Department of Health and the state and everyone else involved in that. New Mexico right now, testing is very smooth, very fast, and very available. All right, thanks everybody. Enjoy the weekend.